Chapter 1. The Spark of Fury. North Carolina, 1765. The harsh beauty of the Piedmont frontier. Picture this, it's the year 1765, and you're deep in the heart of North Carolina's Piedmont region. The landscape is breathtaking, yet unforgiving. A vast expanse where the towering Blue Ridge Mountains gently slope into rolling hills, carpeted with thick pine forests, wild hickory groves, and tangled underbrush that seems to grab at your boots with every step. Dawn breaks with a misty haze rising from dew-soaked meadows, and the air carries the sharp tang of wood smoke mingled with the earthy scent of freshly turned soil. This is no manicured English garden. This is raw, untamed America, where every clearing won from the wilderness feels like a personal victory against nature itself. Here lived a new breed of American pioneer, the Scots-Irish immigrants. These were tough, resilient folk, fierce Protestants driven from Ulster by religious persecution, crippling rents, and famine. They'd braved the raging Atlantic in creaking wooden ships, enduring weeks of salt spray, scurvy, and storms that swallowed vessels whole. Now, landing on Carolina's shores, they pushed westward, axes in hand, swinging from dawn's first light until the stars wheeled overhead. Men like James Hunter, a burly blacksmith whose massive forearms, scarred from years at the forge, could bend cold iron bars with bare hands. His hammer strikes rang like thunder through his log cabin workshop, shaping plowshares and horseshoes while his sharp blue eyes missed nothing. Or consider Herman Husband, a fiery Quaker preacher with wire-rimmed spectacles perched on a hawkish nose, his voice rising like a summer storm to stir congregations to tears of conviction or roars of righteous anger. His sermons, delivered from weathered stump pulpits, wove scripture with calls for justice, leaving listeners with hearts pounding and fists clenched. These weren't the wealthy tidewater planters lounging in Georgian mansions along the coast, sipping Madeira from silver cups. No, these were yeoman farmers, independent smallholders staking claims to 100 to 200 acres each. They felled giant oaks with sweat and muscle, notched logs into sturdy cabins with clay-chinked walls, planted corn in stump-dotted fields, and herded scruffy cattle through bear-infested woods and rattlesnake thickets. Women like Hunter's wife Mary boiled lye soap in iron kettles, spun wool into homespun cloth on creaking wheels, and birthed babies on dirt floors lit by tallow candles. Children as young as 8 wielded scythes at harvest or tracked game with slingshots. Life was brutal. Malaria from swamp mosquitoes, crop failures from droughts, raids by Cherokee war parties. But it was theirs. The American dream pulsed in every axe blow, every shared cornbread meal around the hearth, or so they believed. The poisonous turn, taxes and tyranny descend, but that dream curdled faster than milk left in the July sun. The British Crown, flush from victory in the French and Indian War, flung North Carolina's interior open to settlement, like a shopkeeper hawking discounted wares. Vast tracts, millions of acres, were granted to London speculators, court favourites, and colonial officials for pennies per acre. Governor William Tryon arrived from England in 1765, a polished career soldier with powdered wig, scarlet uniform, and unyielding jaw. He turned a blind eye as cronies like Edmund Fanning snapped up prime bottomlands, then squeezed settlers for every shilling. Tryon's crowning extravagance, a lavish Newburn palace of brick and marble, costing £12,000, equivalent to the value of 2,000 humble family farms. To fund such opulence, elites invented taxes from thin air, land riots, fees for riotous claims already cleared, exorbitant court fees, sheriff levies that tripled overnight. A hard-working farmer, having sweated years to clear his 200 acres of oak stumps and stone, faced £10 or more just for a legal title deed, often pocketed by the same silk-vested clerk who approved it. Sheriffs like Fanning, Tryon's right-hand Yale-educated lawyer with a penchant for imported waistcoats and French wine, pocketed half the collections outright. Then came the foreclosures. Courts stacked with allies issued judgments on inflated debts from cronies' loans at 20% interest. families evicted at musket point, homes torched with children screaming inside, wives dragged by hair through public squares. Fanning's Orange County Court alone spat out 1,000 foreclosures in 1768, netting him a cool £2,000, enough to buy a coastal plantation and still have change for racehorses. Matthew Jones, a farmer's ruin becomes legend. Let me paint the picture of one real man's breaking point. Matthew Jones, a regulator whose story echoed like wildfire through backcountry taverns from Hillsborough to Salisbury. In 1766, Jones, a sturdy widower with calloused hands and a gentle voice for his 8 children, had cleared 160 prime acres near Orange County. He'd paid the initial patent fee in good silver coin and tobacco leaf, watched his corn grow tall, his hogs fatten. Life held promise. Then, in sweltering August 1768, Fanning's deputies rode up on lathered horses, badges glinting. "Back taxes," they snarled, claiming clerical errors had tripled the sum to £7, more than Jones saw in 2 years. He scraped it together, sold his best milch cow, pawned his wife's wedding ring, bartered fence rails for coin. But arriving at court, horror, the bench, Fanning's cronies all, had already auctioned his land to a Richmond speculator for £20 pure profit. Deputies chained Jones like a felon, dragged him 20 miles to Hillsborough jail on a splintered cart. There he rotted in a stone cell crawling with rats, fed mouldy bread and creek water, while his children begged from neighbours. Only a collection from sympathetic farms, wives pooling eggs and cloth, bribed his release after weeks. Jones returned to smouldering ruins, his life's work ash. Multiply this nightmare by hundreds, thousands, evictions under bayonets, public beatings, orphans wandering wolf-haunted woods. The Piedmont boiled. Whispers become roars, pamphlets and prayer meetings, taverns thick with pipe smoke, and Baptist prayer meetings under brush arbours turned into cauldrons of rage. "Money is more sought after than righteousness," thundered one anonymous 1767 pamphlet, printed on a hidden press and nailed to courthouse doors. "The poor are crushed, while the rich grow fat on our blood." Whispers morphed to shouts, fists pounding scarred tables. By summer 1768, at Maddox Mill in Orange County, the first Regulator Association was born. 600 men gathering under starlight, signing blood oaths on sheepskin to regulate the crooks themselves. They weren't outlaws, not yet. Initial petitions to Tryon begged politely: abolish exorbitant fees, elect honest sheriffs, open courts to common folk without Fanning's thumb on the scales. Tryon dismissed them from his palace as a set of artful and insignificant men, dispatching Fanning with 200 militiamen to restore order. First blood spilled, the Hillsborough whipping. The regulators answered with the fury of cornered wolves. September 24th, 1768, midday court session in Hillsborough Square. Hooves thundered like Judgment Day as 50 armed horsemen burst from pine thickets, dust-caked buckskins and primed muskets glinting. Leading, James Hunter astride a foam-flecked grey mare, muskets slung low, eyes burning like forge coals. They surrounded the courthouse, a plain brick building with green shutters, as Judge Richard Henderson droned from the bench. The mob surged inside. Rough hands yanked Henderson, Fanning's tax collector, from his high-backed chair, ripped off his silk coat and breeches, bent him over a railing. 99 lashes from stout hickory switches tore his back raw, blood sheeting the dirt floor. "One for every stolen shilling from God's poor," Hunter bellowed, voice echoing off walls. Henderson fled barefoot and shrieking, half naked through jeering crowds, never to collect again. The mansion burns, Fanning's empire in flames. Emboldened, they escalated that December. Fanning's grand 1760 brick mansion near Hillsborough, 5 chimneys belching hearth smoke, mahogany doors carved with eagles, library stuffed with leather-bound law tomes, became target. Under cover of moonless night, 100 regulators crept through corn stubble, torches dripping pitch. Flames whooshed skyward, visible 20 miles, as they hauled armloads of deeds, mortgages, I owe us into a roaring bonfire. No more paper chains binding free men, they roared, stamping embers into sparks, dancing victory jigs as timbers crashed. Fanning escaped in nightshirt on a borrowed plough horse, galloping 40 terror miles to Tryon's door, pounding for troops. By spring 1769, Regulator strength exploded to 2,000 across Orange, Rowan, Anson counties, boycotting crooked courts, seizing tax wagons at crossroads, tarring and feathering deputies like festival turkeys. One Sandy Creek collector endured 13 icy duckings till Bible swearing he'd quit forever. Husband's plea, Tryon's iron fist. Herman Husband preached restraint from farmstead pulpits. Resist not evil with violence, but steadfast righteousness. But momentum rolled like an avalanche. Tryon marched north with 560 redcoats and militia, cannon rumbling behind flour rum gunpowder wagons. June 1768. He snared 13 leaders at Hillsborough, chaining them sans trial to Newburn dungeons. Husband himself, irons biting wrists, faced £100 fine, 3-year speech ban, instant martyr. Tryon retreated east, but backcountry simmered hotter. Through 1770, regulators drilled militia style, ploughshares to pikes, pewter melted to balls, pamphlets flooded stores, Western Tartars, mocking Tryon worse than King George. Farmers lost militia guns, hid cattle, blood-oathed, die free or slave no more. Tryon begged London troops, fanning pistol slept. Early 1771, fuse burned to powder. Tryon's 1,100, soldiers, gentlemen, Cherokee scouts, marched west. Hunters' riders flew. Alamance Creek, powder, lead, flour. 2,000 ragged but iron-willed planted Liberty Tree flags. Liberty or death, in homespun dye. Cannon smoke awaited. The spark birthed conflagration, scarring forever, whispering to revolution's dawn. Chapter 2. Regulators rise, spring 1769. Shockwaves from the burning mansion. The torching of Edmund Fanning's brick mansion lit more than the night sky. It sent terror rippling through North Carolina's coastal elite like a thunderclap shattering crystal goblets. From the marble-floored taverns of New Bern, where silver-tongued lawyers sipped imported claret, to the velvet-draped parlours of Wilmington plantation houses, where silk-gowned wives fanned themselves with peacock feathers, panic replaced smug certainty. "These backcountry rabble will burn us all in our beds," Governor William Tryon exploded in his palace study, his fist crashing down on a mahogany desk strewn with frantic dispatches, ink bottles rattling, wax seals cracking under the blow. Tryon's face flushed purple beneath his powdered wig, veins bulging at temples as he paced scarlet-carpeted floors, barking orders to trembling aides. But deep in the pine-shaded hollows and oak-studded meadows of the Piedmont, where wood smoke curled from hundreds of chimneys, the regulators saw only divine justice dancing in those flames, a beacon signalling the dawn of their reckoning. James Hunter emerged from this inferno as the movement's iron-willed captain. Picture him, a blacksmith-turned-rebel, mid-40s, with a blacksmith's massive barrel chest and arms thick as oak branches, scarred cheek from a youthful mill accident, giving him a permanent pirate's scowl. His black beard, streaked with forge grey, framed eyes that burned with the patient fury of molten steel, cooling into a blade. Under Hunter's barked commands, delivered from stump pulpits or galloping horseback, the Regulator movement detonated from 600 initial oath signers to over 2,000 armed freemen spread across Orange, Rowan, and Anson counties. These weren't united by lofty philosophy or Parisian enlightenment. They bonded through shared ruin, empty pockets from rigged auctions, wives widowed by jail fevers, children barefoot in January snow because Daddy's farm fed Fanning's horses. Every man bore scars, every woman a grudge, every boy a slingshot pebble ready to draw first blood. The discipline of desperate men, musters and mobilization. Make no mistake, These weren't wild-eyed, whiskey-soaked anarchists rampaging without aim. Regulators organized with the fierce discipline of church elders, planning a harvest fair, or militia captains drilling Minutemen. Moonlit clearings deep in pine thickets became training grounds where 200, sometimes 300 men gathered after midnight family prayers. There they drilled relentlessly. Fowling pieces, smoothbore squirrel guns accurate to 80 yards, cracked at straw targets, improvised pikes fashioned from plowshares and hickory poles thrust in brutal unison. Horsemen's sabres scavenged from French and Indian war veterans flashed moonlight arcs. Women formed the backbone, stitching rough buckskin uniforms from deer hides and homespun linen on groaning spinning wheels, melting family pewter plates and tankards in backyard forges to pour musket balls, boiling creekside saltpeter with wood ash in iron kettles to brew black powder that smelled of sulphur and vengeance. Children no older than 10 darted barefoot through militia patrols, carrying coded messages scratched on bark slivers or whispered mouth to ear at crossroad stores. Hunter calls muster at Devil's Gut, bring salt and lead. The grand spectacle came March 1769 at Sandy Creek, when 1,500 gathered beneath a cloudless sky, the largest backcountry assembly anyone remembered. Picture the scene. Wagons forming a vast protective ring like Conestoga fortresses, horses hobbled and saddled nearby, women tending bubbling cookpots of hasty pudding, thickened with cornmeal, and wild game scraps over fragrant hardwood coals. Children scampered between legs, loading paper cartridges with trembling fingers, while sentries perched on tree stumps, long rifles scanning distant ridgelines. At the circle's heart rose their tattered green battle flag, a white hand clutching a naked sword against olive homespun, Latin motto, aut vincere aut mori, conquer or die, stitched by torchlight in a widow's cabin. Herman Husband climbed a lightning-scarred stump pulpit, spectacles glinting, Bible gripped like a battle standard, voice rolling like thunder across the throng. We seek not blood, brothers, but reform. No more shall the wolf devour the lamb in our courts, while God watches from his throne. The answering roar shook ancient oaks, birds exploding skyward, small earthquakes of defiance rippling through Carolina soil. Surgical war, boycotts bleed the courts dry. Their campaign against corruption turned scalpel sharp. Hillsborough Superior Court, Fanning's rotten fortress pulsing with bribe money and perjured affidavits, faced total economic strangulation. September 1769 session. Judge Richard Henderson, yes, the same tax collector publicly whipped the year before, strutted to the bench expecting packed galleries and full dockets. Instead, 12 sullen spectators nursing jugs of Applejack, 0 jurors, 0 plaintiffs, 0 cases. Henderson adjourned in impotent fury after 3 empty days, his leather-bound docket mocking him like a pauper's empty purse. Regulators patrolled every mud-rutted road in squads of 20 horsemen, eyes peeled for telltale sheriff badges and coin chests. Near Reedy Creek, one freezing dawn, 40 armed shadows swarmed a lumbering tax wagon, like wolves on elk. Driver pistol-whipped unconscious, 150 pounds in tax receipts dumped ignominiously into rushing creek water, while laughing regulators rode off with the team's 4 prime draft horses. "Pay your own damn taxes, you silk-stocking thieves," their leader bellowed to the unconscious man. Summer of vengeance, tar, feathers, and broken oaths. Violence escalated through the sweltering summer like a fever breaking. Rowan County became terror ground zero. 3 deputy sheriffs caught red-handed forging foreclosure notices on widows' farms dragged from warm beds at midnight. First victim Samuel Spencer, weaselly ferret of a man with shifty eyes and ink-stained fingers, found himself stripped naked in his dooryard, slathered head to toe in steaming pine tar, mixed with handfuls of turkey feathers, plucked fresh from roosting flocks. Paraded through Salisbury, atop a splintered fence rail, carried shoulder-high by 6 grinning regulators, he endured 13 dunkings in icy horse trough, while captors bellowed, "Swear off the devil's work or drown like Judas!" Spencer gasped broken oaths between splutters, signing a blood-smeared regulator affidavit, renouncing his post forever. Word raced cross-county like prairie fire. Cross the backcountry boys, wear feathers till Judgment Day. Fanning, barricaded in his hastily rebuilt mansion, penned desperate letters to London by candlelight. These insurgents now number 3,000, well-armed and horsed, defying all civil authority with impunity. Tryon, ever the king's soldier, began stockpiling powder kegs in Newburn magazine till stacks reached rafters. Hillsborough Riot, the point of absolute return. September 25th, 1769. Hillsborough Courthouse Square transformed from sleepy justice into raging inferno when 300 regulators galloped in at high noon, dust-caked from 30-mile ride, howling Gaelic war cries that chilled coastal spines. Leading charge, Hunter astride massive black stallion nostrils flaring, sweat-lathered, flanked by Redknapp Howell, wiry backcountry lawyer with quick-draw musket and sharper tongue, and Harmon husband's brother waving the green flag high enough to snag low oak branches. They encircled the brick courthouse as Judge Henderson pronounced jail sentence on some poor debtor. Crowd surge hit like tsunami. Windows exploded inward under hurled cobblestones the size of fists. Henderson bolted through side door, fine wool coat shredded by clawing hands, pursued by jeers that followed him 3 blocks. Inside pandemonium reigned. Regulators hauled court clerks over benches by neckstocks, beating 2 till ribs cracked audibly like dry kindling. One snivelling Maurice Moore begged piteously, "I only follow orders, sirs." Regulator spat full in his face. Orders from thieves pay no honest debts. They methodically wrecked Clark's office, shredding yellow deeds and mortgages by the thousand, smashing cut-glass inkwells that sprayed indigo across walls, defecating on leather law tomes in ultimate symbolic insult. Fanning galloped up with 30 militiamen too late. Regulators loosed warning volleys skyward that scattered redcoats like frightened pigeons. Chaos peaked when stray musket ball winged Fanning's favourite grey hunter through shoulder. He tumbled ignominiously into stinking mud while regulators rifled saddlebags for incriminating property deeds. Riot raged 4 bloody hours. Damages tallied £1,000. Arrests? 0. Tryon, stewing 100 miles eastward, exploded in purple fury. This constitutes open rebellion against His Majesty's peace. He proclaimed martial law coast to mountains, offering blanket pardons to all regulators, save 6 named ringleaders, Hunter, Husband, Howell, topping the death list. Bounty hunters scoured pine barrens with packs of baying hounds, but regulators melted into vast networks of sympathetic farms where iron-willed wives lied bolder than any man, small children hiding powder kegs beneath hayloft floorboards. Tryon's punitive march. Winter hardens lines. Winter 1769 to 1770 forged battle lines in pig iron. Tryon assembled expeditionary force that strained colony resources. 560 men comprising 300 redcoats shipped from frozen New York barracks. Coastal gentlemen volunteers in silk stockings, clutching dusty heirloom fusils from grandfather's Indian wars, plus 150 groaning supply wagons bearing 40,000 pounds flour, salted pork barrels, 2,000 gallons rum to stiffen spines. 3 gleaming brass 6-pounders rumbled ominous behind sweating ox teams. Mission: arrest ringleaders dead or alive, collect back taxes at bayonet point if fists failed. Cherokee scouts paid gunpowder rations, brought trail intelligence through mountain gaps. January 25th, 1770. Tryon's mud-caked army slogged into Hillsborough amid pelting icy rain, surprising regulator encampment at Sugarloaf Creek. Skirmishes flared like struck flint. 1 redcoat gut-shot through pickets. 3 regulators winged in hasty exchange. Husband captured with 5 lieutenants, loaded in ox carts, chained hand and foot for 200-mile death march to Newburn dungeons. Husband's drumhead trial yielded £100, crushing fine plus 3-year political silence gag. He walked free, but wounds festered colony-wide. Regulators unbroken. The frontier republic rises. Regulators refused shattering. Numbers swelled to 4,000 as horror stories galloped southward on fleet relays. They raided additional courts, freed chained debtors from public stocks using cold chisels at midnight, ambushed fat tax caravans near Cabin Branch, seizing £300 coin plus string of matched carriage horses. Hidden presses vomited pamphlets by the wagon load. Tryon's army devours poor men's bread, whilst families starve. One vicious caricature showed Wolf Tryon gorging taxpayer hogs, while skeletal ploughmen watched. By fall 1770, regulators effectively controlled entire western frontier from Yadkin to Deep River. Militia musters collapsed. Farmers mysteriously lost militia muskets down wells. Tax collections plunged absolute zero. Tryon withdrew eastward licking wounds, but swearing blood vengeance from gilded balcony. Fanning rebuilt mansion third time, hiring private guards who slept pistols in hand. Alamance beckons, the final hornet's call. Early 1771 whispers became hornet's buzz of final confrontation. Regulator spies, taciturn long hunters who lived off game trails, reported Tryon raising grand army, 1,100 strong blending Highlanders with basket-hilt claymores, coastal riflemen shouldering fine German Jaeger pieces, even Catawba Indians lured scalping promises. Hunter dispatched couriers on fastest ponies stolen from Fanning's stable. All to Alamance Creek. Bring salt, cornmeal, powder. The hour is come. By mid-May, 2,000 camped along Shallow Ford. Wagons circled Conestoga-style fortresses. Women stirred hasty pudding bubbling over fragrant campfires. Children rammed cartridges home with tiny thumbs, while sentries paced lantern-lit perimeters. Liberty Tree waved defiant from creekbank oak. Across muddy water, Tryon's scarlet tents dotted horizon, drums throbbing assembly like war god's heartbeat. Husband made final circuit Bible in hand, spectacles fogged emotion. Peace if possible, brethren, blood if providence wills. But pikes gleamed moonlight edges razor sharp, muskets lay primed beside sleepers. Backcountry birthed republic of dispossessed ploughmen, and they knelt to no man. Alamance awaited, creek destiny where farmers faced cannon thunder, and North Carolina's soul teetered bloody precipice. Chapter 3. Blood on Alamance Creek, May 14th, 1771. The armies converge on destiny's ford dawn, broke cold, grey, and reluctant over Great Alamance Creek, a shallow, muddy ford 12 miles southwest of Hillsborough, where dense pine thickets collided with open meadow like green ocean waves crashing against yellow sandy shores. For 3 tense weeks, regulator scouts, lean, weather-beaten woodsmen astride fleet Indian ponies with manes braided with owl feathers, had tracked Governor William Tryon's approach through every ridge gap and hollow trail. These were no ordinary trackers, men like Robert McCollum, who could read bent grass blades like newspaper print, smell cold campfire ash 2 valleys distant, hear ox teams lowing before sunrise. Their whispered reports around midnight council fires painted dire pictures, Tryon's army swelling daily, scarlet columns snaking through Carolina clay like rivers of blood. Now, on that fateful morning, 2,000 backcountry farmers held disciplined hollow square formation across the creek's eastern bank. Picture the scene unfolding like a living tapestry of defiance. Heavy freight wagons lashed together with hemp ropes and pine sap pitch formed impenetrable barricades 3 deep, their canvas tilts flapping in chill breeze. Horses, raw-boned plough nags and stolen sheriff's chargers, stood hobbled nearby, steam rising from sweaty flanks. Women huddled beneath weathered tarps, skirts hiked to knees as they stirred massive iron kettles bubbling cornmeal mush thickened with chunks of smoked venison. Wild turkey legs scavenged from dawn hunts, and handfuls of dried blackberries foraged from bramble thickets. Small children, faces smudged with wood ash camouflage, darted between adult legs, clutching leather pouches of homemade powder cartridges. Tiny thumbs ramming .69 caliber balls home with practiced precision, while sentries perched atop stump barricades. Long Pennsylvania rifles scanning distant ridgelines through powder-blackened eyes. James Hunter strode these lines like a colossus from Old Testament scrolls. blacksmith bulk wrapped in sweat-stiffened buckskin tunic, black beard streaked premature grey from forge fumes and worry lines, voice booming above crackling cook fires. Today we end the wolves who devoured our children, or die free men with God's own sunlight on our faces. His massive hands, scarred from anvil blows and musket recoil, gripped Regulator oath scroll like Moses's tablets. Sentries clutched fouling pieces, smoothbore squirrel guns deadly accurate to 80 yards, primed with precious black powder brewed from creekside saltpeter boiled by patient wives. Pikes fashioned from scythe blades lashed to 8-foot hickory poles glinted wickedly in weak sunlight filtering through overcast skies. At Camp Hart stood Liberty Tree, a massive lightning-scarred oak draped with homespun battle flag, white Liberty caps stitched on blood-red field by candlelight in some widow's cabin. Liberty or death, picked out in coarse black wool thread by calloused fingers that had never learned sampler niceties. Tryon's scarlet host, British might in the wilderness. Across Creek's western bank glittered Tryon's army like fever dream of British imperial power plunked amid Carolina backwoods. 1,100 men, arrayed in precise parade formation. Scarlet coats and cocked hats making crimson ripple across yellow meadow grass. 3 gleaming brass 6-pounders, each weighing half-ton, mouths blackened from test firings, stood ready behind sweating 16-hand ox teams imported from Virginia plantations, their traces creaking under strain. Supply train groaned under staggering loads. 40,000 pounds flour in bolted barrels, hams and salted pork sides swinging from iron hooks, 2,000 gallons rum sloshing in oaken casks, sufficient to drown whole regiments in alcoholic oblivion. Governor himself, ramrod straight at 42 years, surveyed Killingfield through engraved brass spyglass from sleek hunter's saddle. Polished boots, spotless despite 3 days hard marching. Lace cuffs pristine white against scarlet sleeve. Beside him rode Edmund Fanning, sneering through pursed lips. Game cocks to face barnyard fowl excellency, watch them scatter like quail. Highlanders fresh from Scottish glens clutched basket-hilt claymores that had tasted Jacobite blood at Culloden. Coastal riflemen shouldered expensive German Jaeger long rifles, accurate past 200 yards. 50 Catawba Indians lurked pine shadows as scalping scouts, paid gunpowder rations and promises of Regulator hair bounties. Buglers stood ready with polished copper horns, drummers with calfskin heads stretched tighter than violin strings. Tryon issued ultimatum at precisely 8:17 a.m. via mounted trumpeter resplendent in gold braid. Disperse by noon or face His Majesty's condign justice according to law military and civil. Hunter's reply boomed cannon-like across water. We seek reform, not bloodshed. Remove fanning and extortionate taxes. Reform courts. Tryon scrawled single word, rebels, across returned paper, snapping spyglass shut, ordering batteries unlimbered with voice carrying quarter-mile. The fatal standoff. 2 oaths collide. Noon arrived with British drums beating Heart of Oak in perfect military cadence, while Regulators knelt 3 deep across creek. Front-rank muskets levelled at 45 degrees, middle-rank powder horns uncorked, rear-rank pikes upright like steel brambles. Hunter galloped final line inspection, gripping frayed Regulator oath parchment, bellowing above drum thunder. No surrender to thieves who stole our homes, our children, our liberty itself. Herman Husband, banished yet unbowed, slipped through picket lines beneath white truce flag fashioned from clean bedsheet, spectacles fogging emotion as he pleaded directly before Tryon's stirrup. Peace yet possible, Excellency. Blood cries to heaven. Tryon detained preacher under armed guard tent. Your rabble ends this day, sirrah. At 2:03 p.m. sharp some anonymous Regulator rifleman. Accounts differ accidental twitch finger versus deliberate defiance. Cracked first shot echoing through ancient oaks like God's own judgment hammer. Tryon's cannon answered apocalypse. Lead 6-pounder belched canister round death cloud. Hundreds musket balls mixed iron nails, chopped bolts, broken horseshoe fragments tore front rank like scythe through standing wheat. 8 ploughmen shredded instantly, limbs spinning skyward, torso cavities emptied by fist-sized holes, screams piercing sulphurous smoke cloud thicker than London fog. Regulators staggered like storm-battered pines but held formation, returning ragged volleys that snapped whipsnake overhead, splintering Tryon's baggage wagons, dropping 3 scarlet coats stone dead with forehead holes neat as coins. Carnage in the creekbed, flesh against fire. By 2:30 p.m. battlefield vanished beneath smoke so dense captains commanded by voice alone, acrid powder burning nostrils, eyes streaming tears down powder-blackened cheeks. Regulators waded forward under whistling grapeshot, water waist-deep icy from mountain snowmelt, pikes raised defiant above heads, while bullets punched white geysers around boots. Tryon's infantry line held rock steady, bayonets fixed 18 inches gleaming, drums rattling British grenadiers counterpoint to rebel shouts. Highlander Company received charge order, tartan kilts whipping as 50 Claymore men surged forward, howling Gaelic war cries. Basket hilts gripped white-knuckled. Blades whirling descended in crimson arcs hacking 6 regulators' bloody heaps creek edge. Heads split like overripe pumpkins. Bellies opened spilling steaming entrails into muddy water. 19-year-old farmer Samuel Pugh, fatherless ploughboy with freckled face and gap-toothed grin, caught Claymore through guts, impaled writhing while clawing pistol free, managed one defiant dying shot, cracking Highland sergeant's jaw, before collapsing face down mud, turning pink around him. Regulator women screamed raw-throated from wagon barricades, reloading spent fouling pieces handed rearward by boys younger than 12. Small hands black with powder residue, faces set adult determination. Hunter rallied counter-push-up Creek East Bank, 400-strong flanking Tryon's exposed left artillery position. They overran single gun crew in screaming melee, sledgehammer blow spiking touch hole solid before grapeshot from flanking cannons detonated human cluster, limbs whirling skyward like harvest chaff, 15 sprawled dead instant scarlet mist painting surviving faces. Fanning, mounted nearby observing through ivory spyglass, caught musket ball through hat brim, severing cockade. Horse-reared screaming shot through shoulder, collapsed pinning Chief Justice Mudd, while regulators swarmed past shrieking Gaelic curses. Tryon's scarlet centre buckled moment. Reserves 200 fresh militia slammed crashing volley point blank ploughing bloody furrows through rebel flank. Hunter's grey hunter reared wild-eyed flank shot. Blacksmith catapulted Mudd remounting bareback blood streaming from scalp gash, roaring defiance above din. Savage tide turns, scalps, revenge, and breaking point tide turned butcher shops savage. Tryon's Catawba Indians scalped 2 fallen regulators vanishing smoke trails. Rumours spread poisoned arrows blackening wounds green pus. Regulators exacted Old Testament revenge. Captured 15-year-old British drummer boy Thomas Beard. Baby-faced terror-stricken clutching single broken stick. Bayoneted clean through belly on spying charge. Small body kicking Mudd while mother wailed wagon line. By 4 p.m. regulator powder faltered critically. Backcountry brew burned dirty after 90 minutes hellfire. Barrels scraped empty. Desertions rippled rear ranks like rot in apple barrel. Women clutched dead husbands while children fled screaming. Tryon scented collapse, bellowing throat roar. Cavalry now! 50 dragoons exploded reserve position sabres flashing moonlight arcs, horses leaping dead comrades, blades slashing disorganized regulator rear, heads tumbling, backs opened shoulder hip, panic cascade spreading instant fire. Rout and red dawn, the breaking. Precisely 5:07 p.m. dam burst cataclysmic. Final double-shotted canister barrage swept forward killing 21 screaming sweep, bodies cartwheeling bloody pinwheels into undergrowth. Regulators shattered glass smash chaos, fleeing woods 1s 2s trampling own wounded blind panic, abandoning pikes, powder horns, even brothers in arms clawing at mud. Hunter-covered retreat pistol-whipping panic stragglers back cover, till own lieutenants dragged away powder-crusted, bayonet/weeping across blacksmith ribs, soaking buckskin black. Tryon's bugles blared triumphant, cease fire, piercing dusk gloom. Battlefield accounting grim butcher's ledger. 30 regulators dead proper. 100 wounded captured staggering. Tryon lost 9 killed, 20 wounded serious. Victory wreaked Pyrrhic. Supply wagons looted clean Regulator stragglers, guzzling confiscated rum by torchlight. Officer morale cracked cannon shot. Bloody twilight. The hanging oaks. Night fell blood-soaked shroud. Tryon ordered 6 wounded Regulator prisoners dragged forward. Examples. Ropes creaking Alamance execution oaks. Bodies jerking convulsive death dances. Lantern-light shadows dancing grotesque on watching faces. Hunter escaped 300 hardcore melting Yadkin river coves, where iron widows hid rebels steaming corn cribs beneath fresh hay. Husband watched chained Tryon's command tent, whispering frantic prayers fresh martyrs, while creek ran red Yadkin, carrying illusions downstream. North Carolina lay prostrate, but Regulator fire leaped pamphlets, taverns, Philadelphia whispers, greater revolution brewing east. Alamance ended nothing, ignited continental powder keg, roaring to destiny. Chapter 4. The Reckoning and the Eternal Flame. May 16th, 1771. Dawn of the Hanged Men. Alamance's grim reckoning. The morning after Alamance Creek battle broke raw and merciless, air heavy with coppery blood tang, charred powder grit, and wet earth stink rising from creek banks churned to reddish-brown porridge by dying men's boots and horses' hooves. Great Alamance Creek itself ran arterial red bank to bank, sluggish current carrying grisly cargo downstream, splintered musket stocks bobbing like driftwood, homespun shirts stiff crusting with congealed blood, fragments of jawbones and finger bones from boys who'd never swing plough again, never kiss sweetheart under harvest moon, never see wives swell round with sons who might have changed history. Tryon's battered army, scarlet coats mud-plastered to sinew, hollow-eyed faces smudged black powder residue, stumbled zombie-like through slaughterfield gathering abandoned weapons, binding moaning wounded with blood-stiff bootlaces, dragging 6 Regulator leaders forward for impromptu justice. These 6 captured captains lay broken but unbroken. James Pugh clutching belly wound, leaking pink through fingers. Robert Thompson gasping froth-lipped from punctured lung. John Brock cradling shattered elbow white bone poking meat. Harmon Moore vomiting bile from burst spleen. Ryan Bourne leg-mangled cannon splinter. Charles Gilliland scalp-flayed Catawba knife, but eyes still defiant. Tryon permitted no mercy delay. Dragged before drumhead court-martial beneath spreading Alamance oak, branches bullet-pocked, bark shredded grape-shot, each faced snap treason judgment from Tryon's personal tribunal. 3 coastal magistrates, faces pale witnessing backwoods savagery firsthand. Treason against crown warrants no appeal, Tryon declared, voice flat cold, as January forge iron, engraved brass spyglass now trained on hemp ropes dangling knotted from sturdy limbs rather than enemy lines. By 10:17 a.m. all 6 hanged proper, ropes creaking protest as 1,200-pound bodies dropped 4 feet simultaneous, necks snapping audible rifle cracks echoing meadow. Bodies jerked convulsive death dances beneath lantern-glow shadows stretching grotesque across watching militia faces pale as milk. Mothers' wails pierced pine groves mile distant. One widow spat crimson Fanning's polished boots. Murderers of freemen, God sees your black hearts. Hunter's escape and Tryon's Pyrrhic triumph. James Hunter escaped previous dusk's rout with 300 iron-willed diehards, melting into Yadkin River, tangled coves where sympathetic widows, faces lined childbirth, hands gnarled washboard scrub, hid fugitives steaming corn cribs beneath mountains, fresh-cut hay smelling sweet summer promise. Tryon ordered Regulator camps, systematic torching, women shrieking, clutching singed infants, while militiamen kicked glowing embers into canvas tents. Supply wagons yielding 15 flour barrels, plus squealing livestock herded triumphant Hillsborough. Victory procession limped grievously. Tryon's army racked swamp water dysentery green vomit flux. Surviving wagons looted hollow Regulator stragglers, swigging confiscated rum, straight cask spouts beneath torchlight. Fanning tallied butcher's ledger, late candlelit tent. £13,000 squandered campaign birthed martyrs rather than revenue. 0 shillings taxes collected despite 3-month blood price. Hidden backcountry presses vomited pamphlets, wagon-load proportions overnight. Alamance massacre. Wolf Tryon slaughters His Majesty's loyal subjects. Vicious woodcut depicted governor grinning demon form hanged men, dangling miniature from cannon barrel mouth like hunters' trophies. News rocketed Philadelphia taverns, Boston print shops, even London coffee houses. Rocket fuel igniting independence fever from Massachusetts Bay to Yadkin Valley. The Regulator diaspora, scattering seeds of revolution. Military defeat scattered regulators like dandelion puffs, wind-borne to fertile ground, but failed annihilation. Herman Husband, detained then abruptly released Tryon political calculus, fled northward Quaker Pennsylvania sanctuaries, sermons now laced Alamance brimstone. North Carolina blood cries liberty from every creekbed, every gallows oak. James Hunter vanished Blue Ridge fastnesses, surfacing 4 years later, Revolutionary Captain King's Mountain. Pike scars badges, honor testifying where ordinary ploughmen learned extraordinary steel. 1,500 regulators swallowed bitter King's pardon, public whippings across naked backsides drawing crimson welts before cheering coastal crowds. £100 crippling bonds, good behaviour, yet swore private blood oaths vengeance before God parted lips. Fanning's thumbed courts reopened tentative. Juries now packed regulator cousins, brothers, sons acquitting debtors wholesale on technicalities, finer spider silk. Tax collections cratered absolute zero. Sheriffs resigned wholesale rather face midnight whippings, fence rails heated forge red. Tryon, roundly humiliated by backwoods rabble, sailed New York governorship 1771, bearing Alamance grudge like open wound, abandoning Fanning Dodge tar pitch buckets alone behind barricaded doors. Backcountry transformed, populist spine stiffens colonies. Alamance birthed unbreakable populist spine stiffening colonial resistance coast to mountains. Regulator veterans flooded Sons Liberty Committees 1773 onward. Alamance wounds living proof against Tory sneers, cowardly rabble. Lexington Green opening shots. April 1775 found 200 ex-regulators, double quick time beneath Hunter's tattered green banner. Mouths roaring, remember Alamance. Fanning fled Canada Revolutionary conflagration. Loyalist branded tar feather scars, lifetime memento. Husband's firebrand pamphlets fed Thomas Paine's common sense, quill drop by drop. Mecklenburg Declaration. May 1775 echoed regulator demands verbatim. No taxation absent representation. Jury trials, ordinary freemen. End corrupt judiciaries. George Washington himself noted Headquarters Journal, July 1776. North Carolina, Western men learned governance cannon mouth, worth 10,000 Tidewater dandies. Legacy carved in bullet-pocked oak and living memory. Alamance ghosts linger tangible today. Creek Ford designated state historic site bears silent witness. Bullet-pocked execution oaks still standing defiant. Bark ridges etched canister balls like ancient runes. Creek water known locals, blood Alamance, running faintly rust-tinted rainy seasons. Annual regulator reunions drew thousands 19th century strong. Descendants toasting 6 hanged martyrs, creek water-ladled tin cups beside corn-pone baked open fires. Fiddles wailing Bonnie Dundee beneath Liberty Tree saplings. 6 execution oaks became pilgrimage shrines. Locals chipped bark slivers, luck charms sewn into watch fobs, hat bands. Historians later christened Alamance America's first Civil War, dress rehearsal where illiterate ploughmen faced professional cannon-learned stand firm, receive grape-shot faces, discovered common men mightier kings when liberty called. Philosophical deepest cut, sheep grow fangs. Deepest Alamance wound proved philosophical marrow deep. Regulators proved ordinary men, axe-wielding, corn-grinding, scripture-quoting, could defy distant imperial power, organize sans royal charters, fight losing battles, yet cede continental victory. Green Liberty tree flags, morphed stars stripes, 1777. Regulate yourselves battle cry echoed constitutional amendments, limiting court fees, guaranteeing jury trials, ordinary folk. Tryon's gilded Newburn Palace crumbled brick dust, 1781 revolutionary blaze. Fanning's courthouse empire reduced similar pyres. James Hunter breathed last free breath, 1782 Yadkinside cabin, blacksmith hands clutching regulator oath parchment, whispering deathbed kin. We planted liberty tree shading generations, tell my boys stand tall. North Carolina Piedmont bloomed transformed soil, freer soil, fiercer men, forever scarred Alamance memory etched every creekbed stone. Alamance stood no defeat, fertilizer revolution proper. That bloody creek taught America's radical heart eternal lesson. When wolves devour lambs, seasons running, sheep grow fangs overnight. Bite back they would. For 1776, Declaration, constitutional equality promises, nation-birthed backcountry defiance, ordinary men who faced cannon claiming birthright freedom.